The N64 completely changed the game when it came to 3D platformers with the success of Super Mario 64. Naturally, this saw a few developers trying their hand at the genre to varying degrees of success, with Chameleon Twist being one of the lesser known but more competent out of the bunch. What sets this game apart from others on the system is its unique mechanics that seamlessly blend with the traditional platforming that you would expect, and it sees you taking control of a chameleon known as Davy as you travel across 6 different worlds, each with their own theme and challenges to overcome. At the center of the game is the use of Davy's tongue, which serves as your main tool for navigation, combat and even solving puzzles, and you've got to use it to grab onto poles, swing across gaps and pull yourself up to reach platforms, and by using it to swallow enemies they can be used as projectiles, which really opens up your options when it comes to exploring each level. As with most platformers, each stage is filled with secrets, collectibles and branching paths that encourage the player to explore, and of course there's also the boss fights, which end up being a real highlight, with them all blending creative design with the right amount of challenge that fits perfectly with the game's overall playful tone. Like many of the early 3D games though, the camera can be a bit of an issue, but it's really a deal breaker, and after some time of getting used to it, you'll be blazing through each level with ease. Overall, Chameleon Twist stands out as one of the N64's most overlooked platformers, and even though it doesn't manage to reach the same heights of its competitors, it's still something worth giving a shot. Treasure has always been at the forefront when it comes to shooters, and Bangio is easily one of the best they ever produced that was sadly overlooked by many. It sees you jumping into a small but powerful mech, with your mission being to take down a crime syndicate who are causing havoc throughout the galaxy, with its gameplay being a masterclass in control chaos. The game's defining feature is its weapon system, which offers 2 different pilots with unique abilities. One of them fires homing missiles, which are perfect for open spaces and tracking targets, whereas the other shoots lasers that bounce off walls, making it ideal for tight corridors or hitting enemies out of reach. You get to switch between the 2 pilots on the fly, allowing you to adapt to whatever the game throws at you, and apart from the standard weapons, you've also got a super attack, which allows you to send out 100 missiles at once and clear the screen in a flash. Apart from the weapons themselves, a huge emphasis on combos is what makes the gameplay so much fun, and by destroying enemies and objects in quick succession, you can build it up and unlock access to a shop, where various upgrades like stronger bullets, health recovery and shields are available to buy. There's nearly 50 levels to make your way through, with the main goal being to reach and defeat the boss at the end of each stage, but the journey is often anything but straightforward. The stages range from open battlefields to intricate mazes, with some of them incorporating destructible elements and puzzles that further add to the challenge. So for anyone fond of Treasure's other games like Gunstar Heroes and Radiant Silvergun, Bangio will not disappoint. The N64 wasn't without its fair share of racing games. With the likes of Mario Kart and Wipeout, there were plenty of options for players to enjoy, but one that never really got its chance in the spotlight was Snowball Kids, that saw you jumping into the boots of one of 5 different characters as you take it to the slopes and race to be the first that crosses the finish line. From the moment you boot it up, the personality and charm of the game becomes instantly apparent, with its vibrant and playful vibe taking center stage, and thankfully the gameplay is just as inviting, with it being easy to get to grips with, making it perfect for players of all ages and skill levels to jump into the action. The controls are tight and responsive, allowing you to glide down the slopes and carve through turns, but it's not all about just simply racing, as the trick system is just as important. By pulling off spins and flips, you'll earn yourself cash, which can then be spent on power-ups or upgrades, which rewards those willing to take the chance of performing some of the more risky maneuvers during a race. Much like Mario Kart, items also play a role, and it sees you having to throw snowballs, bombs and take advantage of short boosts that add a real strategic edge to the competitive nature of the game. Now while Snowball Kids does offer a pretty robust and well thought out single player option, it's during multiplayer where the game truly comes to life. With it supporting up to 4 players at a time, it's a perfect option when it comes to looking for something to play with your friends, and with its huge amount of unlockable content such as new characters and boards, there's always something that'll keep you coming back for more. Knife Edge Nose Gunner is an on-rail shooter that launches you into the future, where Mars has begun to be colonized, and it's not long until trouble starts to brew, with a mysterious alien force soon appearing and challenging humanity's grip on the planet. As one of the top gunners out there, you're thrown into the hot seat and are tasked with overcoming 6 expansive stages, from subterranean Martian tunnels to desolate alien cities and bizarre canyon landscapes. The gameplay is simple and captures the pick-up-and-play appeal of light gun games like Time Crisis, with the focus being on trying to take down as many alien ships, turrets and robotic drones. And as you would expect, the controls are really simple, with the Z button being used for a rapid fire shot of your cannon, whereas A and B trigger your secondary weapons like missiles and bombs. But a really great feature is the use of the C buttons that allows you to slowly dodge and avoid obstacles and enemy fire, injecting a layer of interactivity into the otherwise linear movement. Adding to the replayability of the game is the various branching paths in each level that are determined based on your character choice, difficulty level and kill ratio, ensuring that each run is different from the last. And to top it all off, you've got several boss fights to contend with at the end of each stage, where most of the game's challenge comes to the surface. If there was one thing that lets the game down though, it would be that it's not possible to play it with a light gun, something that the N64 never received. And it's a real shame, as I feel it would have helped the game succeed and appeal to a much wider audience. That being said, it's still great to play on a controller, and for anyone that's looking for a taste of arcade shooting on the N64, then Knife Edge is worth a look. Fighting Force is a beat-em-up which was originally going to be developed as part of the Streets of Rage series, but would eventually break out on its own and try to redefine the genre for the then new 3D space. Set in a near-futuristic world, a scientist is hell-bent on exploiting a predicted catastrophe in order to dominate the globe, but 4 vigilantes stand in the way who form the Fighting Force to put a stop to his evil schemes. You get to choose who to play as from one of these 4. You've got Hawk, who balances speed and power, Mace, who excels in agility, Smasher, who delivers devastating heavy hits, and finally Alana, who combines quick strikes with ranged abilities. The controls are pretty simple and easy to pick up, with all of the attacks being mapped to the face buttons, allowing you to perform combos, dodges, and unleash your special moves with ease. But scattered throughout the levels are weapons like pistols, shotguns, rocket launchers, and melee tools like pipes and knives, which really come in handy when the odds are stacked against you. Now, one of the game's greatest strengths is its multiplayer mode, and this is where the action is at its best. You and a friend can team up against the hordes of enemies and bosses throughout the game, whilst coordinating your attacks, sharing weapons, and reviving each other to survive tougher encounters. It ends up being a lot of fun, but it's not without its issues, and one of the main ones has to be that it can become quite repetitive, with each character only having a limited moveset, but it's not something that truly ruins the experience. If you're like me and are fond of classics like Double Dragon or Final Fight, then Fighting Force is something you'll not want to miss. Bomberman Hero took the series in a completely different direction and instead saw you jumping into a 3D world that blended the classic bomb-laying action with platforming as you work towards rescuing a princess that's been kidnapped by an evil empire. This sees you visiting a range of different worlds where you've got to use your bombs to blast enemies, destroy obstacles, and uncover hidden paths, with each level being packed with puzzles and secrets that'll encourage you to explore as much as you can. In fact, the design of each of them is what really helps the game shine, and thankfully you've got a nice amount of power-ups that aid you along the way, such as speed boosts and remote control bombs that add a bit of variety to the gameplay. What helps mix it up even more though is the way that the game blends a broad amount of different playstyles into one. Apart from the usual platforming, you'll find yourself having to contend with levels that see you having to swim or jump into a jetpack or minecart that serve to shake up the gameplay and help it from becoming stale. Like many other platformers, boss fights soon become a real highlight and demand that you've got a grip on all of the mechanics in play to overcome. May that be taking on a huge fire-breathing dragon or a giant mechanical spider. Each of them have got a weak point that you've got to target, but the arenas in which these fights take place in are just as much a part of the challenge as the bosses themselves, and juggling all of these aspects together is where the game is truly at its best. With its easy to pick up and play nature and nearly 60 levels to complete, Bomberman Hero ends up being one of the N64's most enjoyable hidden gems. When talking about fighting games on the N64, heavyweights like Super Smash Bros. Or Killer Instinct are likely what comes to mind. However, Fighter's Destiny 2 is an often overlooked contender that built upon the solid foundation of its predecessor, which refined and expanded the series' unique mechanics. Unlike other fighters, Destiny 2 leaves behind the traditional setup that relies on simply having to deplete your opponent's life bar, and instead awards you points for successful moves such as knockdowns, ring outs, and special techniques. The first fight fighter to earn 7 points wins the round, and it ends up feeling like a breath of fresh air, with the system encouraging you to think carefully about each and every move you make, and to be able to adapt to your opponent's playstyle on the fly. As you would expect, there's quite a few characters to try out, 14 in total that each come along with their own moveset and backstory, with a variety of fighting styles helping the game shine. But what really steals the show is the inclusion of several different modes to get stuck into, with Destiny being the main attraction. It sees you taking on a series of different opponents as you climb the ranks to become the ultimate fighter, and along the way you'll earn master points that can be spent to unlock new moves, costumes, and even secret characters, which adds a rewarding sense of progression to the experience. While it may have flown under the radar compared to its more famous peers, it's a game that captures the spirit of the N64, experimental, fun, and full of heart. So if you're a fan of fighting games or are just looking for a hidden gem to discover, Fighters Destiny 2 is an absolute must-play. Just like the name implies, Battle Tanks is a vehicle combat game that throws you into the role of Griffin Spade, a man who lives in a world ravaged by a deadly plague that wiped out most of the population, leaving only a handful of survivors. Now, ruthless factions roam the wasteland and terrorize their rivals with fleets of tanks, and it's your job to take them down. It puts you into the driver's seat of one of many different tanks, each with their own strengths and weaknesses. From the small and nimble to the slow but powerful, there's plenty that cater to different styles of play, ensuring that whether you prefer speed and agility or raw power, that there's one to match your approach. The gameplay itself is really fast paced, which blends an arcade approach with just enough strategy to keep it all engaging, with you having to navigate a variety of different battlefields as you blast through buildings, barriers, and enemy tanks while collecting power-ups like cloaking devices and guided missiles to help you get the job done. Across the nearly 20 different missions, you'll be given a series of different objectives to complete, like rescuing hostages, capturing enemy bases, or simply surviving waves of attacks. This variety helps keep the gameplay fresh, and with the difficulty escalating over time, there's plenty of challenge to keep you on your toes. Now, for an N64 game, Battle Tanks pushes the console's hardware to deliver something truly impressive. The sheer speed that the game runs at, no matter how much mayhem is on the screen, is no small feat. Whether you're blasting through the campaign's ruined cities or battling friends in a heated deathmatch, it just never skips a beat. So for those of you who may have overlooked it back in the day, now would be the perfect time to jump in and try it out for yourself. The N64 wasn't really well known for its abundance of RPGs, and Aiden Chronicles was the only real Western role-playing game to see life on the system. It's all set in a medieval-inspired world where you play as a young man known as Aileron, whose life takes a dramatic turn when he's poisoned during a routine mission and begins experiencing vivid prophetic visions of the Earth being destroyed. As with many RPGs, you'll form a band of like-minded heroes and set out to save the kingdom. And although it may seem a bit cliche, the story offers some surprising moments and ends up being one of the game's finest aspects, especially towards the end. On the gameplay front, combat plays out in a turn-based fashion, unfolding on a grid-like battlefield where positioning, terrain, and tactics are vital. You've got to guide Aileron and control your party members, each with their own unique skills, attributes, and classes, as you face a range of different enemies. And of course, progression also manages to play its role throughout the game. As you defeat enemies, you'll earn experience points that allow you to level up and alter your character's attributes and skills, with it allowing you to tailor each of your party members to your specific style of play. So whether you prefer the brute force of a warrior squad or having the ability to wield a wide range of different spells, the option to build both or a mix of the two is there. Even though some may be turned off by its dated visuals and slow pacing, if you're a fan of RPGs, I really recommend giving it a try, as its intricate combat system and memorable characters make it worth it. Goemon's Great Adventure is the follow-up to Mystical Ninja that took the series back to its side-scrolling roots and delivered everything that fans have come to know and love about the franchise, may that be the offbeat humour or inventive gameplay that resulted in one of the best, albeit underrated, platformers you can find on the system. It follows Goemon as he and his team work together to bring down an evil time traveller, with the story getting about as unhinged as you would expect, complete with bizarre subplots that are firmly rooted in Japanese folklore and pop culture. Thankfully, the gameplay is just as engaging as you get to choose from one of 4 different characters that bring their own unique abilities to the table. In terms of gameplay, each of the levels bring with them a decent amount of platforming, combat and puzzle solving that ensure there's plenty of variety throughout all of the levels that the game presents. As with most platformers, there's a few collectibles along the way that serve an important role, one being cat dolls that give you the option to power up your weapons, and secondly coins that allow you to charge your attacks. Like many entries in the series though, the boss fights come along with a huge amount of variety and require you to make use of each character's abilities to exploit them. But the real draw of the game for me are the giant mech battles that see you jumping into your robot and taking on enemies from a first person perspective. Here you control the robot's attacks such as your jab and laser beams as you dodge and strategically counter your target. With its catchy soundtrack, vibrant visuals and challenging but fair gameplay, Gmans Great Adventure is a game you owe it to yourself to try out.